This is the EVP Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another awesome episode of the EVP Podcast. I'm Beaker, and I have with me...
Ghosty McGhostface.
And DVO.
And together we are EVP, Energy Visions and the Paranormal.
Dun, dun, dun.
That was very spooky, guys.
I know.
Very spooky.
We did a good job on that one.
I know. It's not quite Halloween, but we're getting there.
Getting closer. The
August.
leaves are changing. The
August,
leaves are changing.
all the leaves are brown.
I did it.
All the leaves are brown.
dun.
And the sky is gray.
Dun, 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 dun. So, yeah. 2 episodes in a row talking about the adventures of the Haunted Museum.
That was fun.
It was fun, and I'm already wanting to plan a trip back.
So there was an exhibit in there that I'm really intrigued by.
Okay.
I think we should do an episode on it in the future.
Yes, I actually almost chose that this week, but I know how much you wanted to do it for your topic, so I picked something different. I was saving that one for you, so you can, because I know you mentioned last week that you want to do a topic on it, or an episode on that one. So we'll save that one for one of your topics.
Yeah.
Or I'll steal it.
You probably will. It's okay. Either way, it'll be a topic.
Well, see, I had that in mind with that topic that you wanted to do when I picked the topic for this week.
Oh. Fun.
Yes. So what I chose this week is to talk about the origin of the Ouija board.
Or spirit board.
Or spirit board or talking board, yes. And the reason why how they tie in together is the topic you wanted to do. They actually, at the museum, when they had the display, they had a Ouija board that the lady actually used while she was doing her thing. They have her actual board sitting there in that display. So I thought, why don't we talk about Ouija boards? And then people will know about them. And then when we get to our episode where we talk about what you want to talk about, people have some of a better understanding of Ouija board. I don't know how much she actually used it, though. I just know
I don't know either. And I actually learned a little bit more about Ouija boards when researching this.
A lot of stuff you didn't know, huh?
Yes. Well, a lot of things. Well, we'll get into it.
Okay.
Like how they were created to talk to the unborn children in their women's wombs. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Is that what they were used for?
Yeah. Ouija
what?
meaning placenta.
Did I what?
Yeah, you talk to them.
So women would use to talk to their unborn child in their womb. Baby, what
I
would
feel
you
like
your
I'm
name
missing
to
out on some inside joke here.
No.
I just made it up right now.
And I'm just going with it, man. Just go with it.
I was like, did I miss something in my research?
Like, wait a minute. That's how they were created.
I don't remember any of this. This must be new.
It's German for a woman's placenta.
Yep.
Oh, good times.
Right.
So who wants to tell
It's amazing.
Who wants to go into the history or the backstory of El Ouija?
Well, should we first talk about... Let's talk about the name first.
Okay.
Being that it's coming from French and German background.
Well, one guy I was watching a video on claims it's Egyptian.
Yeah.
The word Ouija?
Ouija
Yeah.
is Egyptian.
Oh, well, he's full of shit.
That's the
because-
first time I've ever heard anyone say that, and all the research I've done, because I've talked about this before. I've looked into this this particular subject before, and I've never heard that until today when I was watching that video. And the guy's like, "Oh yeah," and it's weird because everything I've read, basically contradict everything that this guy was saying. And then the stuff that I read, he's like, supposedly this is what actually happened. But all the research I've done, the stuff that he claims didn't actually happen is what I've read that happened.
Did he get all his answers from the Ouija?
Maybe. I did watch an interesting video, and we could talk about this a little bit later, of people actually using a Ouija board. It was actually a big round table that looked like Ouija board.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The whole table was the board?
The whole table was the board. Yeah.
Interesting.
Makes sense.
And it was really cool.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you can go get one from IKEA and just brand it with letters.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's literally all a spirit board or a talking board or Ouija board is just like letters written on a cardboard.
Do you remember what the Egyptian word was?
Well, he says it stands for good luck.
Yes. That's what I
But
read.
Egyptian, yeah.
Yeah. Or it's Ouija.
Well, no, it's not either one of those either. It was just the board named itself.
The board named itself. So, in the 1800s, 1848, mid 1800s, spiritualist movement got like really popular. The average life expectancy of people was about 50. You had people going off to war. You had kids dying young. Just everyone's dying.
Women dying at childbirth.
Yep, and that's with the placentas.
Ouija coming from placenta.
Yep. So, I mean, people, they had this wantingness, and this is around the time when, like, Christian religions weren't, like, extremely huge in the U.S. People wanted to reconnect with their lost loved ones. So they were turning to people like the mediums, like the Fox sisters. Did you guys read anything about them?
Yeah.
They were fakes. But the Fox sisters were like the really popular ones at the time. They were from New York, I believe. And they would have like their little seances that they would do. And they would have like rappings. So like when they'd ask a spirit a question, that it would knock on the wall. Or they would have the table turnings, which meant that they'd ask questions. Everyone put their hand flat on the table. And then the table would start shaking. And, everyone claimed like, well, we're not doing this. Turns out that like the knocking on the wall was just like people they had on the other side of the wall doing the knocking, the table turning. They had mechanisms hooked up to cause the table to shake. And then they would also do things, and I don't know if it was just the Fox sisters or other people that did this, but they would do things like when you were asking a spirit a question, you would be like, okay, tell me if it's this letter, and you'd be like, go through the alphabet. And then I guess you'd wait for the knocking on the wall to tell you that's the right letter.
Take forever.
It would take forever. So fast forward to like 1890.
But now I just have this idea of a great child book of the actual two foxes, like animals, sisters, and they're rapping. Doing
Fox raps.
Yeah. Doing some shady business.
Yeah, I mean, people were really big into this, and talking boards pretty much already existed before the Ouija board. But you had in 1891, you had some businessmen saw this was catching on, saw people were using these, and they
found their niche.
They're like, we're gonna make money off of this. So in February of 1891, I guess is when it was released. But originally the board they called it a talking board or spirit board. But if you haven't seen one, it's literally just the alphabet numbers 0 through 9, and you'd have like yes, no, hello, goodbye on it, and that's it. And that's the basic board. I mean, people do put like different symbols, like moons and stars and stuff on them or whatever. They're easy to make. You can buy them like anywhere. Like Hasbro makes them and sells them. You can make your own out of wood.
Well, I'm looking at it.
They still make them.
It's hearing weird.
That's your AC just kicked in.
Oh, is that what that noise
Yeah.
is? Oh.
See, it's because we have the Omni thing, so it's picking up everything.
Oh. Strange.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's cool. So that's gonna sound nice.
You might
Who
be
are the
able to pick up
dudes?
some EVPs with that noise.
But yeah, so Ouija board itself, a Ouija hasn't been around too long. I mean,
A couple hundred years.
1890. It's only been 100 years.
Maybe it
100
was before then even.
like 130 years. Well, the actual Ouija board itself, like the name Ouija, has only
Yeah.
been around for like 130 years.
Right.
Spirit boards, no one really knows the origin of actual spirit boards or talking boards, or like how long they've been around. But they are able to trace the origin of the name Ouija board. And I believe it was some dudes, some businessmen. I'm way far away from that. I just skipped over a whole bunch of this. I don't remember their names.
It was. Just kidding. I don't know either. I read it all. But
So Charles Kennard.
yeah, that's the guy.
He got a group together. He had, so I believe he was a businessman of some sort. out of Ohio, or Baltimore, Maryland, actually. So in his group, he had Elijah.
He was a snake oil salesman.
Was he?
Probably. Sounds like it.
Maybe. So he got a local attorney, Elijah Bond, and then someone named Colonel Washington Bowie, who was a surveyor, and they started the Kennard Novelty Company to exclusively make and market talking boards. Because, like I said, they saw the cash grab. They saw the money in it. They're businessmen. They're like, we're going to do this.
But did you see how he got the patent? Did you?
Yeah.
That was pretty fun.
So one of the other people that came in kind of on this whole thing was a medium that was Bond's sister-in-law, Helen Peters, who was a medium. Mm-hmm. She was helping them develop this, and I guess they had asked the board. I guess this is how the board got its name, according to Smithsonian. That they asked the board what its name was.
She asked the board.
She asked the board, and it spelled out Ouija. Or they're saying that like "we" obviously is yes for French, and "ja" is German for no, I guess, and that's so that's why people think that it's yes no. The other theory is I guess Helen Peters was an author, and
and there was that one.
Yeah, she was wearing a locket of a woman, and the letters on it, I guess, was it was a D instead of a J.
Yeah, we.
And so they think that it was spelling out the name that was on the locket, but it misspelled it and put a J instead of a D.
Yes, and then they also asked what that meant, and it's
they're like,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. They're like, when it spelled out Ouija, they're like, what does that mean? And it said good luck.
I was just wondering what Egyptian word that they were trying to say.
I have no idea. I didn't have time to look into that, but that was the first I ever heard of that. But I know that they, when they wanted to get their patent on it, they went to the patent clerk's office, and they couldn't get the patent unless they could prove that the spirit board actually worked. And I believe they didn't have to prove like how it worked, just that it did work.
Right.
So the patent clerk asked them to have the board spell his last name.
No, his first name.
His first name?
Yeah, because I think they already knew his last name.
Yeah, it was his first or last name. They didn't know one of his names. So they like, what's my name? And the board, supposedly none of the people that were there at the time knew the guy's name, and the board spelled out his name. And so that was enough for the patent clerk. He gave him the patent on it. So it was the first ever patented talking board or spirit board that hit the market.
Right.
And it was like, I think originally $1.25.
Yeah.
Which in that time, I don't know like how much money I don't know the conversion rate to now, but yeah, it was $1.25.
Probably $30.
Probably. Because that's what they go for now.
Yep.
21.
Well, 21 now is what they go for. Mm-hmm. I remember I paid like $29 for mine. I bought one and it never worked.
So here it is. So I went to the Hasbro website, and yes, it's there, and it's called Ouija Game, and it looks like a Ouija board.
Have you seen the one that looks like Stranger Things?
I think so.
Yeah, you do. You've seen it.
Yes. So the description in the Hasbro website says, "Enter the world of the mysterious and mystifying with the Ouija board. You've got questions, and the spirit world has answers, and the uncanny Ouija board is your way to get them. What do you want to know? Ask your question with a friend using the planchette that comes with the board, but be patient and concentrate, because the spirits can't be rushed. Handle the Ouija board with respect, and it won't disappoint you. Includes the game board, planchette, and instructions for ages 8 and up. Ouija and all related characters are trademarks of Hasbro."
Other characters.
Is this a game? Yeah, so I'm wondering, like, wait, is this an actual...
Well, what's funny is now that
game
they're actually calling it, like, saying spirits, and that it's spirits talking.
Yeah.
If you look right here, the original patent was for a toy or game. Mm-hmm. This thing, I mean, it was huge. It blew up, like, big time. So they started with one factory in Baltimore by 1892.
And then two in New York.
It was two in Baltimore. Yeah, two in New York, two in Chicago, and one in London. So in like a year of this thing being released, it blew up that much to where they had to open like 6 more factories.
That's nuts.
I guess in 1893, The two main guys, Kennard and Bond, the guys that I guess originally started it, left the company, and it was sold to William Fuld.
And he
He
was
it.
like an apprentice.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he
And he actually started like another company. And
Yes.
it was almost like a dueling spirit board company. And then the last owner of the Ouija board sold the patent to, what was his name? Fuld, for $1.
yeah.
I guess it was like really public, the feuding and everything.
Yeah, so it says that Fuld like never claimed that he.
Well, he didn't
created
invent it,
He didn't invent it.
but his
But
obituary said it.
It says Colonel Bowie, the majority shareholder and one of the only two remaining original investors. He licensed the exclusive rights to make the board. What followed were the boom years for Fuld and frustration for some of the men who'd been in on the Ouija board from the beginning. There was public squabbling over who really invented it. It played out in the Baltimore Sun, so yeah, it was huge. It was in the news. While rival boards launched and failed, like other people try to make.
Other people too.
They kind of tried to piggyback off the success, and no one was getting anything. And it says, yeah, in 1919, Bowie has sold his remaining shares to Fuld for $1. But I guess Fuld, like, he died in 1927. I think this is interesting because he died like he fell
off one of the factories.
in the factory that he was building at the time, and apparently the Ouija board told him to build the factory.
So he fell off it during construction,
I think
or after it was already done? And did he fall, or did he
It
get...
was a freak fall from the roof of his new factory. So it looks like it was already done being built, and he fell off the roof and died. And apparently the Ouija board is what told him to build this factory.
Or did Fuld have enough of this guy and throw him off?
Maybe Fuld's the one that died, so someone else would have thrown him off.
Oh, Fuld died.
Yeah, Fuld died.
Oh.
Fuld, Fuld.
Okay.
Yeah,
Never mind.
The one that bought
Never mind. I was
the one that
thinking-
bought the patent for $1. He's the one that died.
How old was he when he died?
I don't know. It just says he died in 1927. I don't have like birth dates.
Why not?
Smithsonian doesn't have birth dates. But that's a brief history. That's real quick on like kind of how the Ouija board came about and a little bit about the spiritualist movement. I do know that like it's weirdly popular, and it actually outsold Monopoly. Like it was like the #1 board game.
After the Poltergeist movie.
No, it was Exorcist. But
Exorcist.
well, the thing
Exorcist,
is
not
like
Poltergeist.
if you look at it, and I've noticed like the dates, the times like when the Ouija boards got really popular and sold quite a bit was when there was like disasters, like the Great Depression. It was selling like crazy. Like World War I and II was selling like crazy. And it just seems like anytime there was like some
Vietnam
kind of
War.
yeah, anytime there was like a war or like a natural occurring event,
People want to talk to their loved ones
yeah, they want to
that
talk to their loved
passed.
ones, and they buy the spirit board. And it was all the way up until like 1973, 78.
The Exorcist
The
movie
Exorcist.
changed everything.
Yes. So I mean, it wasn't considered taboo. Like Ouija boards were everywhere. Like people had them. That was a fun family game that you would play, and it wasn't considered weird or unnormal for people to like sit around their coffee table, play with the Ouija board on a Saturday night, and then go get up the next morning and go to church.
So what's the game? Is the game like you are talking to spirits? Is that the game?
Supposedly.
Okay.
So yeah, you have a planchette, or just it's basically like a point. It's like a triangle pointer with a
Yeah.
glass in the middle, and everyone puts like 1 or 2 fingers on the planchette, and you ask questions, and it moves around the board to spell things out, and you're supposedly communicating with spirits. And like I said, up until The Exorcist, like this was in like almost every home. People would leave it on their coffee tables. They'd play with it on a Saturday night, go to church the next day. Like it wasn't taboo or weird or unnormal at all.
It wasn't considered evil in any way.
Not until The Exorcist came out.
So what happened? I've never seen Exorcist.
So go ahead.
Apparently, in the Exorcist movie, the little girl who
Yeah.
gets possessed and all that,
The character's name is Reagan.
she played with a Ouija board the day before, and then gets possessed afterwards, and the whole movie goes on from there.
Okay.
So yeah, the whole demonic possession in The Exorcist is attributed to the use of a Ouija board.
I find what's more fun is the Magic 8 Ball. I find that it would be a little bit more fun.
Well, it's just easy yes or no with that. With this, you can spell words.
Will I kiss my first girl? No, dang it.
Well, same like we talked about in The Conjuring 2, they kind of hinted the same thing with the Hodgsons, with the Janet. You know, they show her at the very beginning of the movie, like, here's your spirit board, and then they start playing with it at home, the two daughters do. And then the movie's saying that it's the Ouija board. Well, it's a homemade, like, talking board,
Yeah,
spirit board. It wasn't an actual, like, Ouija board. It was a homemade one. But same thing, like...
That's why I did my best impersonation. Will Michael kiss me?
Yeah, oh, jeez. Yeah, so The Exorcist made it bad. It was kind of like Clowns. Clowns weren't scary until John Wayne Gacy.
Right.
And then It just made it worse. So, yeah, it was a normal, just like whatever thing. It was just a family fun game. Like, and it's even recommended on there, like 8 and up.
Yeah, right. I was just reading on the Hasbro website. It's for ages 8 and up.
Yeah.
Play with the Ouija game.
So, none of you guys haven't actually played with one, though, huh?
I've never played with it.
I've been in the room.
Witnessed.
I've witnessed, but I've never actually. I don't know if I've ever actually touched one, but I've never used one. I've watched someone use it.
Because the skeptic side of me is just like, nope, people are moving it. Someone's moving it around.
So have you used one? You said you have one.
Yes. No. Well, I did buy one as a teenager, and my parents threw it away.
Okay.
But I never did get that one
returned
to
in your
work.
room one day. No, okay.
No, it was me just taking to a friend's house saying, "No, this is my friend's Ouija board. I can't throw it away. Give it back to him." And then I brought it back home.
So did you use it by yourself or with other people?
I tried using it.
'Cause it's
so with the one that I bought myself, I tried using it alone.
Why did you buy it?
Why?
Uh-huh.
Because I had already used one and it worked, and
Okay.
I was intrigued, and I was already experiencing a lot of paranormal stuff, and there was no outlet for me to turn to like try to talk about it or whatever. So I was trying to like figure it out on my own.
Well, you were doing it wrong because the game says you're supposed to have 2 players.
Well, like I said, I tried with other people and I tried by myself, and I did not. The one that I purchased, I did not get it to actually start moving.
And you said that one you used with other people or just by yourself?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
And never got it to work.
But you said you did one another time.
Yeah.
And
So
that
the
worked.
the one that I had done with friends before was already belonged to a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking about this before where the friend let us use it and he came back out and was asking us, "Hey," because, we were all doing like, you're moving it, all this stuff. Like we were asking the spirit, like his name and all
Stop it.
this.
No, you're moving it.
And then when he came back out and was like, "Hey, was it working for you guys?" And we're like, "Yeah, it was." He's all, "Did you guys ask him what his name was?" We're like, "Yeah, we did." He's all, "Did he say his name was Vey?" We're all, "Yeah, I did."
Oh, yeah. You told me about
Yeah, I
this.
remember.
Yeah. Oy vey.
So we did we played with that Ouija board multiple times, and I did want to buy one for my own just after that because I was like, this thing is crazy. I do want to get one, and I want to like know more. And so I bought one. I bought the glow in the dark one. That Spencer's.
yeah.
Spencer's gifts
That's
had a
the
glow in the
problem right
dark
there.
one.
Ghosts don't like glow in the dark.
That's what it was. I even tried I tried lighting like some white candles just to like pause it. I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. I was like,
You're like, let me set the mood. Let me light these candles.
I was like doing it by myself. With a
Were you
friend.
playing some mood music too?
some Barry White playing, lit some candles.
Probably had
All
some
right.
Keith Sweat going on.
Who's in here with me?
You
Who
know,
wants to touch my butt?
it probably didn't. You're not supposed to use it in the bubble bath.
Now you tell me. So, but
Lit
yeah,
some
the one.
candles, put on some music.
So when my
do a
parents
bubble
did want to
bath.
throw it away, I was just like, yeah, this thing's don't even work anyways.
So have you used one since?
No, I have not.
How old were you then?
I was about 12,
Okay.
13-ish.
See, I was a little bit older from my experience. I had some friends that said they used a Ouija board, and apparently a spirit that they talked to told them where there was some money that he buried up in Jeremy Ranch and gave him a mile marker and everything. They had this whole like sheet of paper with all the information they got from the Ouija board. And they're like, "Hey, you want to go with us to find this money?" I'm like, I got nothing else going on. Sure, why the hell not? If there's money there, then we can split it 3 ways. I'm rich. If not, then I just wasted an afternoon, but I'm hanging out with some cool people. Whatever. I didn't have anything going on. Needless to say, there was no money.
What?
We couldn't even find the mile marker. Like, we tried to follow the directions exactly, like how they got it from the board, and we couldn't find it. So they had the idea, like, they didn't bring the board with them. And so we went back to my friend's house to decide to ask the board again, where it was at.
And I said, "Ha, gotcha."
It's like, gotcha, bitches. Yes, that's exactly how it went down. How did you know? You're psychic. No, I remember they got it out, and they had in the middle of the bed, and one of them was leaning on one side, and the other was leaning on the other side. So they're across from each other, and I'm just watching. Like, I was curious, but I didn't want to actually use it because at the time I was kind of good, LDS Mormon boy. So I was just like, I'm just gonna observe. And the only thing I really remember from this is I remember watching my friend. His eyes were closed, and our other friend, her eyes were open. So it's moving around. They ask who they're talking to, because they ask a bunch of other questions first. So they get to the point they're like, who are we talking to? And it starts spelling out. It starts with a B and an R and then a U. And at this point, I think I noticed my friend starts to tremble a little bit, the one with his eyes closed. And then it gets to C, and then it gets to E. And we're like, and then stops. So it spells out Bruce. And at this point, my friend is like on the verge of bawling. And me and the girl were just like, dude, what the hell? We're like, who's Bruce? And he, I still remember this like it happened yesterday. It was just crazy because he was full on like crying at this point. His father had committed suicide about 2 weeks prior, and his dad's name was Bruce. And so it really freaked us all out. So we packed up the board and put it away. And as far as I know, none of us have ever used one since. I don't know. I can't verify that because one of the people I don't talk to anymore. But yeah, it was trippy because they said to me it looked like his eyes were closed. So it kind of felt like, and her reaction made it seem like she didn't know what his dad's name was. So when it spelled out his dad's name, from what I observed, it looked like it was like legit a spirit controlling the planchette and making it work. Whether or not that actually was the case, I don't know, because this was my early 20s. I didn't start opening up my abilities until my mid 30s, so a good 10 years later. So I don't know for sure whether or not like his eyes were open, if he was the one making it move. I have no idea. I don't have any reason to believe that he was doing that, but yeah, from what I can tell, from my experience, it seemed legit. And it freaked me out bad enough at the time because, like I said, was kind of still holding on to my LDS beliefs, and it freaked me out. And I'm like, I'm not using this anymore.
Were you with them when they were getting the whole mile marker and treasure?
No, they did that before. They did. There was just the two of them on that one.
I'm like, where does this conversation come from? Where you're like, so spirits, where any gold is buried or anything? Like, where does this conversation come from?
I have no idea, and I don't remember ever asking them. I just remember, hey, do you want to go with this? And I'm like, sure, why the hell not?
Yeah, that's where like my skepticism kicks in. I'm like, wait, how did this conversation start? We start asking all these questions.
Do you remember our dad telling us about his friends playing with Ouija boards?
No.
You don't remember the story?
No.
So I remember our dad telling us about his friends from his work that were playing with a Ouija board, and they were doing it like weekly. They would all meet up and hang out. I don't know if they were having drinks or whatever, but then they would play with Ouija board. And I guess he said that they started talking to this one spirit who told them his name and everything, and they looked him up, and he was a patient. He was a patient from the University of Utah who died at the hands of this doctor.
Okay.
And he was saying that this doctor killed him. And they looked up this doctor and everything because they spelled out the doctor's name, and it was he really did work there. Okay. But he retired, and I think he might have even passed away at this point also. But it was all legitimate from what he was saying. This is the best of my recollection. I mean, this was years ago, decades ago. But yeah, I remember him telling us about this. And then they were playing with it more to try to get more information about this spirit. And then I think that spirit went away and something bad came through. And they said like it was like the table was levitating or something like that.
Interesting.
And they just stopped using it after that.
Okay.
But I would like it seems like you never heard, or there wasn't much of bad things coming from these up until the Exorcist movie.
I mean, part of me is like, why do you have to put your hands on the planchette? I mean, if it's really inhabited, wouldn't just move and glide by itself.
Well, same like the dowsing rods. Why isn't copper just jumping up and crossing itself all the time?
I don't put much behind the dowsing rods either, though.
What about a pendulum?
Same thing. I don't put much behind it.
So
I've used a pendulum. Dell's actually been with me, or Ghosty has been with me on an investigation where I used a pendulum, and we were getting pretty relevant responses using the pendulum.
yeah, and I think so. A lot of these things are using your energy, and having to use your energy, you have to be in contact with it.
I think it's a little
Okay.
different. Like when you're using a K2 meter, like those things are designed to detect energy,
Right.
and so it's easier for them to like manipulate those and make them move.
Because it's visual.
But like with my one of my things that swing.
Pendulum.
Yes, thank you.
Johnson.
Yeah, that too. It's a metal one, and it actually screws a part of the top and has a little compartment. So I actually have selenite and tourmaline inside my pendulum.
Okay.
So it's a little bit heavier. So being an actual physical object and not just making lights light up, I think it would take more energy. So the fact that I'm holding it and I'm putting my energy into it makes it easier for them to make it move.
You're holding it though.
Yeah, just like I'll hold it in my in my fingertips, just the very top of the chain, and then I'll hold it over my hand. And I usually like try to put my hand like on my knee or my leg or
Right.
something to try to steady it the best I can. And you do the same thing with dowsing rods. Well, the weird thing is like I can get a pendulum to work for me, no problems. Dowsing rods do not work for me.
I just think there's so much human error.
There is.
Yeah.
That is there.
Well, see-
you can have your hand slightly tilted one direction, and now you put a little bit of weight towards it, and now it's got a little bit of, it can get a little bit of momentum now just because of gravity. That's an example of a pendulum. Or same with dowsing rods. You can just have one hand tilted a little bit more one way, not trying to be, and just gravity and it's weight.
I
and
want to try something. That just gave me an idea to
So
try
what do you
something.
want? What do you
with
want
a
to try?
pendulum.
Because I know
something with a leveler and
No. So you know those like banana holders that they're curved up,
right, yeah.
and then they
oh
have the
my
little
god!
loop.
I've like looked for things to like put a pendulum on, and I never thought of a damn banana stand.
Now, free ideas all day. So banana stand, hang a pendulum from it, and then just grab a hold of your banana stand, right at the base. Just hold the base of it.
I say just let it go.
No, I would think you'd need some kind of contact. But I think with something more stationary, like the banana hammock,
Yeah.
I think that would.
See, if I was there and I saw something similar to that, that's the stuff that would intrigue me more. It's
See, and I've for years I've been like, I should get some sort of stand. They should make some sort of stand, and I don't know why banana stand is not something I ever thought of.
have you ever been in like those?
It has a nice little hook thing.
Yeah, have you ever been in those planetariums and they've got like the pendulum as well, but it's based on the Earth's gravitational spin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like that's the stuff. Like that's just hanging, directly down from the ceiling, and then it kind of does its own thing from that. Pendulum also could something to do with that too. Could be gravitational as well, just like those.
Well, I've got like 4 pendulums, so we can experiment and try things out.
That'd be
have
interesting.
them. I don't have them with me, but we can do that one night when
I have
we
a couple
have some
pendulums
time.
here.
We should do that. We can even video it and put our responses on or what we get on YouTube. Dowsing rods, I don't put a whole lot of faith in, and I have. Obviously you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of dowsing rods. I don't ever use them, and I mean, there's too many other factors that they're used for that could manipulate it. Like they say it finds water, they say it finds precious metals. So if you're using it on an investigation and you're getting them to cross, who's to say that you're not near a well or near some buried treasure.
What I find interesting is like when I'm scrolling TikTok, it's like every time there's a live feed from somebody, it's like someone doing tarot card readings. But there's this one girl that like uses dowsing rods, and she's always got like she'll lean forward and scroll through her comments, see the question, ask it, lean back real quick, ask the question, the rods swing, and she's like, oh yeah, that's a yes. And so literally like every girl that's asking, am I pregnant? It's like yes. Like every like what the odds? I want to get on there and be like, am I pregnant as a dude, and have it say yes, because the way she's using the rods, like there's a way to do it correctly. And there's still room for human error. But I don't put a lot of faith in dowsing rods. And I actually heard a story. You remember when Brian Cano came? Because I know you actually got to do an investigation one. Did you?
No.
You weren't on that one. So I talked to him for like 4 hours, like the day after that expo he came for, while he was waiting for his flight. And we did talk about dowsing rods and like an experiment that he did. And, one of the things people do when you have the dowsing rods is like, can you point to so-and-so in the room? And you watch the dowsing rods like spin and point to the individual that they ask it to spin to, and the same concept applies to the Ouija boards, but I think they also had the same experiment where they blindfolded the person, and they're like, "Can you make the rods point to?" And they said the name of the person they wanted to point to. Now at this point, like since they were blindfolded, they have like the individual move, so the person blindfolded doesn't know where they're actually at in the room. And nothing. It doesn't point. Or points to the wrong place.
Yeah, see?
So
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's like tests like that I like, them trying to disprove it. And the same with Ouija boards. Like, you got people that are so convinced that it's a portal to Satan and you're bringing demons through. And then you've got the scientific approach where it's muscle memory.
Not necessarily muscle memory, but like inner brain, subconscious,
where you're thinking it, so it's
like a different level though, like really sub level,
super sub
level, subconscious, higher self. I don't know, but the studies that they've been doing were like when they would ask people these questions. Certain questions, and their answers were about 50-50, and then they let them use a Ouija board and ask the questions, and then the answers were more 65% correct. And it was strange that asking these people these questions without anything and their answers being about 50% correct to now being able to use a Ouija board, and then the answers were significantly higher, more correct. That's pretty weird. But they were doing these studies, and it seems like it's more of like the subconscious, and it's yourself doing it rather than spirits.
So the video that I was talking about that I watched, where they had the table that was the Ouija board, they showed it like there was this girl asking questions, and they were convinced they were talking to this girl's grandfather. And they're like, oh, from the little bit that I saw, they're like, oh, are you happy? And the planchette moves to yes, and she's all excited, like, oh, yay, my grandpa's happy. I'm glad that he's happy. And the guy's like, so you're a believer that the Ouija board works, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's definitely, it's real, it works. And he's like, okay, we're going to try this. And he hands the 4 people at the table a blindfold. And everyone's blindfolded. And he goes, okay, what year did your grandfather die? Or not what year did he die, but do you know what year he died? And she's like, yes, I do. So the girl was the only one that knew the year that he died. Like the guy hosting the show or conducting the experiment had no idea. And the other 3 people that were also blindfolded had no idea. So when they asked the board what year, is he still here? It was moving around, and I think they got like blank spaces, like the moon or picture of the moon or whatever. And then they're like, okay, what year did you die? And he was writing down, like you see him a piece of paper, and he's writing down what their answer, what they're getting on the board. And when they're done, he has them all take their blindfolds off. And he goes, okay, what year did your grandfather die? And she said 2010. He's like, okay. And he's like,
I got RFZ.
He turns it around and shows them what they spelt out or what they got using the Ouija board. And it was JK and then just blank spaces on the table.
Right.
So it's one of those things where, yeah, I think, I don't know, what is your guys' take on it? Like, do you think it's subconscious or do you think it's spirit?
It depends on the situation. So in this particular case, like they're saying, like if the spirit of her grandfather was there, he should have known the year that he was died, and it should have just
spelled it out.
automatically gone to the 2010 and not had any issues like it did, where it just went to blank spaces on the table. I think, and I'll let actually let's let DVO go first.
So I think most of it's BS. My opinion. I think people are moving it. Do I think there's a potential that you invite something in? Yes, I do think that potentially could happen, and I think it probably has happened. But for the most part, I do think it's someone moving it. Even could be like subconsciously they're moving it, but I think someone's moving it. I don't scientifically, it just doesn't make sense to me, I guess.
So I've actually been on several residentials where I used a Ouija board and started having issues shortly after.
Right.
Do I think that every time you use a Ouija board, you're inviting some demonic entity into your home? No. I look at a Ouija board as just another tool that you can use to communicate with a spirit. The way I look at it is like, if it's not already there, it's not going to like, unless you have that intent, and like unless you're trying to summon something,
right.
chances are you're not going to actually get like it's not like opening up doorways like every time someone touches one of these boards. And the thing, like with the video I was saying where they said they were talking to her grandpa, like unless her grandpa's there following her around, chances are he's not going to come. It's not.
I used to say he's crossed over.
Right. It's not very likely that, just because I want to talk to this individual, like I can't pull out a Ouija board and be like, okay, I'm going to get Michael Jackson to talk to me here. Like it doesn't work that way. I've had someone where they accidentally like did open a portal and brought in like a family from like deceased family, obviously ghost, from like somewhere in Europe. And the family was like, the reason why they were having issues is the family was like confused because they didn't know where the hell they were and what was going on. Because this person opened a temporary portal and then this family came through the portal. I don't know what their intent was and what they were doing while they were using the board, but that's just from what Brandy had told us because she was on that investigation. That's what happened when they used the board, is it opened a temporary portal to let this family come through. I've been on investigations where someone said they threw a Ouija board away and it showed back up and stuff like that. So
I think that's bullshit.
I think so too. The way I look at it is, it's just another tool that you can use to investigate with. The reason why I suggest people don't use them is two reasons. One, if there is a spirit there, you're inviting the spirit to use your energy and move your body. With the dowsing rods and the pendulum, you're asking them to just move the dowsing rods and the pendulum. With the planchette, with you holding the planchette, there's more contact with the spirits that you're actually like giving permission for spirits to manipulate your body. That's why I won't use one.
Yeah, and I do think when you play with the Ouija board, like like again subconsciously that it has been said that you could open up doorways or portals to spirits. So I think that now that's in your subconscious. So when anything happens, like you hear stories of people, they started playing with it, and all of a sudden the candles blew out or the lights went out. And it's like,
I've seen videos like that.
I mean, is it coincidence? It could be. Is it? But because it's in your subconscious now. I mean, I don't know.
You psych yourself out.
You psych yourself out, right?
Because of the exorcism or the Exorcist. It's got that taboo on it. So
yeah.
Everyone thinks it's evil and scary. So that's a lot of kids when they're going in to play with these things. That's their intent. Like they're wanting to be scared.
Yes.
So the slightest little thing happens, like the candle blows out, like it's a ghost.
So Ghosty, what do you think? Oh, glad you asked.
What, did you want to turn?
Kinda.
Too bad. How do you mute this? Okay.
I think that it is both as well. I think for the most part it is subconscious, and most people are moving it themselves. I think there are some boards that will work. I think like in the first one that I used, like I really think there was some kind of a spirit attached to that board. just because the outcomes of some of the answers were pretty strange. I think me and my friends might have manipulated it some. I know I wasn't trying to, but who knows? Because even when I tried to do one on my own, and I know I wasn't trying to do anything manipulated, it was not moving whatsoever. But some of the answers we got, like the name of this spirit saying "Vey," and my friend who owned it and wasn't there witnessing us using it, coming out and saying, did it say his name? And it was wild. But
and nobody knew that name.
No. So this is the weird part. So when we went to go hang out with this friend of ours whose board this was, so the two brothers whose house it was, one of them was a year older than us and one of them was a year younger than us. We know them. They weren't like friends of us, like we hung out with them, but we knew they had this board, and we went over there to see if we could play with it. So they were like, yeah, it's cool, but here, just use it in the driveway and have fun. And they just let us go at it, and it was pretty wild experience for us.
But besides the name "Vey," was there anything else? Was it answering questions?
It was answering questions and it was spelling things out. And I remember as a kid, of course, one of the questions you're going to ask as a stupid teenager is, when am I going to lose my virginity? Mm-hmm. It was right. It was right.
But I mean, I don't know if spirits are fortune tellers.
Oh, another thing too. I was having a lot of paranormal stuff going on at home, and I remember asking that too. Like, hey, I'm having there's spirits. How many spirits are in my house? And I remember it telling me 5. And I probably witnessed 3 of them, but
see, but with your teenage question, and you said it was right. How do you know that's like, well, it tells you you're going to lose it when you're like 18. So you're like, okay, I'm 18 now. I got to go do this. And the board's right.
I thought that too, exactly.
Well, because I wasn't like, when it happened, it just happened. I wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't out hunting.
Another thing that I was thinking
the ghost is like whispering in the girl's ear, make me right. I told him on the Ouija board, don't make me a liar.
Fulfill the prophecy.
One thing I was thinking is, our friends Brandy and Caden, who are mediums, they said that they can see people that are no longer with us. They walk into a place and they're trying to be contacted, like, oh, this person can actually see me and communicate with me. I need to reach out to them and talk to them. And so I think maybe when people are playing with these boards and a spirit just happens to be by and hearing it, like, oh, here's my chance to maybe try to communicate now. Oh, maybe they're open to this idea of me communicating with them. Here I am. I'm going to try.
Well, that's what I think too. Like I was saying, with a girl that thought her grandfather was there answering the questions.
Yeah.
Unless the spirit's actually there, like I don't think you're just gonna. I think if you are actually talking to a spirit through the spirit board, it's just going to be whatever's nearby.
Right.
You're opening that form of communication. That's no different than
you can't just summon up someone randomly.
Yeah. It's like putting out your K2. Like a spirit knows that you want to communicate, so that's what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or try to do anyways. So I don't think like if I pull out a Ouija board and start using it right now with you guys, and I don't think, like, oh, I want to talk to Michael Jackson. Like, he's not going to show up and start talking to us through the spirit board.
There was a couple things that were done with the Ouija board that was also talked about in that article, where one lady said she wrote this whole book based off of the spirit of Mark Twain talking to her through the spirit board. And she wrote this whole book with the spirit of Mark Twain telling her what to write. I didn't do very well, that book. But then there was another guy who did well, who wrote a book based off the Ouija board. But his book was him saying that it was the Ouija board. It was more of like his subconscious higher self that was the one writing the book. And this Ouija board was helping him bring it out.
That's interesting.
And like it was like better than what he could have done. But that also correlated with the one thing that showed like the answers, where somebody was just like answering the answer just kind of off the top of their head, and then being 50%, that kind of was the average. And then here's a spirit board. Now we're going to ask you these questions and use the spirit board to get your answers. And then they increased it to 65% right. them. So they're just thinking that it's your subconscious like pulling memory and doing it that way.
Yeah, and I've heard that theory before too. I've only witnessed. I've never actually used, so I don't know. But I'd be curious. Like, I know Family Tree's not there anymore; they closed down. But like, had we taken one to there, I guarantee you, like, if we tried to talk to something, it's gonna be like, I've noticed this with like some of the devices, where like EchoVox and Spirit Box, like SB7 Spirit Box, it's usually the more negative things that try to talk to you through those. So I'm wondering if it would be like same with like if you're using a Ouija board, if like Lucy would be like, "Hey, I'm here, I'm talking."
Well, I wonder if it's just whatever has more energy.
Probably.
I think, and it would be one of those things where, well, I don't know. That's another thing, because if they're using your energy, do they really need to have energy of their own built up?
See,
Yeah,
there
I
you
don't know.
go.
See, but that's the other thing is like the other reason why I wouldn't use one other than having it manipulate me and my energy. You don't always know what you're talking to or who you're talking to, because like there's a case with the Warrens where they said the daughter got a Ouija board and it told her that it was a spirit of a teenage boy, and she was like asking all this. She basically had like a romantic kind of relationship with this spirit, and invited it to be a part of the family, and that's when shit went crazy. So you just don't know who or what you're talking to.
Right.
And I mean, you could say the same thing with like a K2 and all that. So that's what brings me back to the other part of it is with a K2, I'm not asking the spirit to manipulate me or my energy.
Right.
Like I would with a Ouija board. And a lot of times, like, there could be nothing there, and it's you're moving it yourself without realizing you're moving it.
Yep.
Want to hear some interesting stories?
Yeah.
Yes.
Pulled a couple. That might be fun. So these are people that wrote on Reddit or in Reader's Digest. They kind of submitted stories. There was a bunch that I kind of pulled some that I kind of thought were interesting. So here it goes. The first time I used a Ouija board, I was about 6 or 7, and I was with my mom and older sister, who was about 15 at the time. She's now 24, the one that submitted this story. She said the family had just moved into a new house, much bigger, much older than the one they lived in previously. That night, Paige, her mother, and her sister were eating pizza on the living room floor since they didn't have all their furniture set up yet, and they put on a fire to ease the chill of the fall air. After dinner, her sister pushed her mom to let them play with the old Ouija board. As we were using it, Paige recounts a box in the living room that had some books in it literally flew across the room. Shortly after that, the fire inexplicably went out, and their mother was so shaken that she took the girls to their grandmother's house to spend the night. So, interesting little story there.
Oh, over the river, through the woods.
Yeah.
Did it say what year that was?
She was 6 or 7, and she was 24 when she submitted this story. So 15.
She submitted about 4 years ago. Just kidding.
Like, when she's single or something?
Yes. No, I'm just trying to get like a
Paige
timeline.
sounds cute.
I'm
She sounds cute.
cute story. No, just trying to get an idea of like if there could have been cameras at the time of this happened, like home cameras and stuff, or
Yeah, probably not. I don't think this is too old of a story. So 15 years, probably not any
no cameras.
Here's another one. Owen started playing with a Ouija board when he was a child, and he had continued to experience paranormal phenomena ever since. He said, "My grandfather on my dad's side died before I was born. He and my dad were estranged, so my dad never spoke of him or had pictures of him around. One day, Owen began seeing and talking to a person he called Michael. Unbeknownst to him, Michael was his grandfather's name. Finally, his parents sat him down, showed him a picture of a man that he had never seen, and asked if he knew who that was. And Owen said, yeah, that's Michael. And they said, okay, well, that is actually your grandfather.
What did that have to do with the Ouija board again?
He started playing with it when he was a child. He started having paranormal experiences, and he started seeing a man named Michael around.
That was after using the board.
Yeah, after using the board. All right, just a couple. I have a few here, but just a couple. Recently, I was at a birthday party. This is a DVO story, by the way. And they had a magician, and
Did he play hide the sausage?
No, not that one. That was That was another magician you're thinking of. It was a clown magician. So he's up on stage and he goes, "I need someone who can read well." And everyone's like, "Derek or DVO, have DVO come up there." So he's like, "I got 3 books up here. Harry Potter, The Da Vinci Code, and some other book." He goes, "Pick any book," and they're thick books. So I picked one of the books, and he goes, "Okay, go ahead and sit down." So I go sit down. I'm at the table I'm with, and he goes, "I want you to find anywhere in there, find a word, but find like a big word, like one that's like 8 to 10 letters long." So I said, "Okay." So he's like, "While you do that, give me a 4-legged animal." And I said, he said, think of a 4-legged animal, and I'll draw it while you do that. I said, "Okay." So I'm thinking of an animal. So he's drawing. He goes, "Okay, what animal did you choose?" And I said, "Aardvark." He goes, "Okay." And he turns around the piece of paper, and it was literally like a stick figure of like a head and a body and 4 legs. He's like, "And that's an aardvark." And everyone laughed, and I laughed. I'm like, good one, touche. And he says, "Okay, what's the word you chose?" So I flipped through a book. I think I picked the Harry Potter one. And I'm flipping through it. I'd stop. I was going to go to the left side of the page because, naturally you look to the left when you read, right? And I was like, I'm going to look to the right of the page. And a couple sentences down, there was a word. I can't remember the exact word. I think it was like astronomical. I think that was the word, something like that. I think it was like astronomical. And I showed the people at the table. And I said, "Okay, the word's astronomical." He turned around. He had written the word out.
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if he was possessed or what, but that's the kind of stuff that, I find that, I don't know how that trick works. I think it's fascinating. I love magic tricks. I think magic tricks are awesome. And I think a Ouija board's like a magic trick.
He was a wizard then.
He was some type of wizard.
Yeah, not a
You're a
magician.
wizard, Harry.
Yeah. That's why he had the Harry Potter book, baby.
Mm-hmm. It was an instructional book, not a.
Yeah, exactly. Not a story time book.
Okay, if you want to watch, I know it's on Netflix. There's this guy named Darren Brown.
Okay.
He's like a mentalist. He's
Okay.
got a couple different things. I know the one that I first watched is still here on Netflix. It's called The Push, and the whole object of it is to see if he can get people to commit murder by pushing someone off the roof of a building. He's
Like what happened to Fold?
yeah. What? Yes.
Yeah, getting pushed off a building.
Yeah, from the story earlier in the episode.
Yeah. Exactly.
This building.
But he shows like throughout the episode like how certain things can cause people to do things they normally wouldn't do. But he also has one where he's up on stage and he does stuff like that, where he had like a balloon bouncing around the room and had like 3 different random people like pick numbers or stuff like that, and he was able to write them all down as like people are thinking of these words or numbers or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's Darren Brown, check him out. It's the same thing, same concept.
There's another gentleman. I think he's British. I can't remember, but his name is Lujar. Oh my gosh, I lost his name, but something like that. He's also a mentalist. And
Darren Brown is also British.
Okay, yeah. So
So he's got the
It's
he's got the
interesting.
3 here. So he's got sacrifice. So he's tries to get to see someone if he would take a bullet for someone he didn't know. And then there's the push to see if someone would push someone off of a roof.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Miracle, which is the one I was just talking about, where it's like an audience and he's on stage and stuff, and it's really interesting. Like, give it a look.
I do think the mind, the mental effect of things, play a huge role in these type of cases, like Ouija boards or like possessions or like we were talking about the Exorcism movie. Because I have a theory. If you're mentally strong, like I don't think you get that much attachments or attacks if you're mentally strong. That's just my opinion. That's why like I'm not too afraid to like go ghost hunting, because I just feel like I'm mentally strong and they won't want to hang out with me afterwards. Like, this guy's boring. All he does is work and play with the kids and his family and stuff. Like, they're gonna. And we're not going to spook him out. Like, that's why we're not going to attach ourselves to this guy. He'll probably yell at us. He'll probably get mad at us.
See, but then you have other people that go in with a different mindset. They could be doing the exact same job that you do, how you do it, and all that. But they have that one little fear in the back of their head that, like, I'm going to bring something home and it's going to come after my family,
You're
my
right.
kids.
Yes.
And that's where I do think, like, a strong mind comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And like the one thing I've heard, and I agree with this completely, is when it comes to spirits and ghosts and demons and inhuman entities and stuff like that, is one is like, if they do exist, you really have nothing to be afraid of. If you
Right.
give them that fear, that gives them something to feed off of.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
if you don't believe they exist, then again, you have nothing to be afraid of because there's nothing there.
Right. So it manifests in front of you, I guess. Then
Yep.
then that's another story. But
Yeah, that shit's weird.
Your mom's weird.
Your face is weird.
I know.
interesting topic. Good topic. I'm curious what people think about
What do you think about Ouija boards?
Luigi board.
Luigi board.
Luigi.
Luigi board. So on a future episode, we do have another email from one of our listeners that she's given us the okay to share. I don't think we have time for this one because we're already over an hour here.
Okay.
But we do have another listener
I'm
email
excited to
to
hear it.
share. And this is actually the second email this person. We've already shared one of her emails.
Okay.
Nice.
And if people want to send us email, where do they do that at?
You can find us at evp.pod@gmail.com. We're also on evp.pod at Instagram and Facebook.
Yes.
On all your favorite internet browsers.
Yes.
Very true.
Off subject, but having to do with spooky stuff. Just found out about this. I never even heard about this. But did you guys know that they have a horror movie festival in Telluride, Colorado every year?
Nope.
No.
Neither did I till today. Anyways, it's this big horror film festival, and it's every like October in Telluride, Colorado. And next year, I think I'm gonna go.
I have a confession. I'm not a big fan of horror movies.
Well, I'm not a fan of gore movies.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of spooky, like Insidious, Conjuring.
yeah, like The Conjuring.
Anything with Patrick Wilson.
naturally.
Step off my Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Should us move in.
It's mine.
But
Look,
you get the gist of my.
Look, he was Ed Warren, and he was the dad in the Insidious movies, and he was in the grass or the tall grass.
And he
or
was
whatever
in
it's
your
called.
dreams.
And
He was in
star of
Ghostie's
your dreams.
He was in Ghostie's dreams, not mine. No, I had a creepy dream the other day, and it freaked me out.
A scary dream?
Yeah,
Well, do you remember it?
yeah.
What was it?
So I was showing someone how to use a K2 meter.
Okay.
And
In your dream.
In my dream.
Okay.
And I remember, like, and the weird thing is, like, this is in my room. Like, I could see my room the exact way it's set
Uh-huh.
up. Like, I was in my room, and the person that I had with me was sitting on my bed. And I remember getting the K2 out, and it was already turned on for some reason. And I go, Iva Jane, are you here with us? And as soon as I said that, the next thing I remember is everything going dark, and I couldn't hear anything other than this, like, ringing noise. And the person that was on my bed was, like, freaking out and screaming. And I saw, like, a dark, like, shadow figure in the closet in my room, and it freaked me out so bad that I was just like, I woke up.
That's what will happen when you die.
Probably, maybe.
That's how you're gonna die, actually.
Probably, yeah, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die in my room talking to ghosts. It was weird. It was creepy.
That sounds kind of creepy.
That's pretty creepy.
But yeah, so there's that.
Do you guys like I like Conjuring movies because they're based on real stories. I like that type of stuff.
I like
Yeah.
the first two Insidious movies because Patrick Wilson's not in the other two. No, I like those movies. I like this. So
Yeah, those are the movies I'm gonna want to go see.
I am a fan of all of them. I love the slasher movies. Halloween's my
don't.
favorite series, even though there's like 6 different storylines now. Nightmare on Elm Street.
And there's another movie, another Halloween movie coming out.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's the
There's
sequel
one-
to
well-
it's the sequel to the sequel that just came out.
Yeah.
Too much.
There's so many different
Yeah.
storylines on how the Halloween movies
I'm
go.
passing on them.
Friday the 13th, I love those, but I also enjoy the sci-fi thrillers. I enjoy the
Like Sharknado.
Shark. No, none of those B-rated sci-fi movies. But like Aliens, Alien 3,
That was good.
Yeah,
Prometheus.
sci-fi ones are good, but the Hostel,
monster movies.
not a-
Hostel, I hated.
anything like those.
The weird
gore
thing is,
ones,
like,
I'm not a fan of it.
the torture porn. I have all the Saw movies.
See, in Saw,
I
I like
love
the
the Saw
first one.
movies.
I did like the first one, even though it was gory and stuff. I liked it, but I didn't like where they went with it and all the the direction it went afterwards, and
I thought that was all fascinating how they did that. They actually, the new one just came out, Spiral.
I stopped watching after the third.
Didn't even know.
I don't even know if I watched. I think I did watch the third.
Spiral stars Chris Rock.
I did hear about this movie, but I did not know it had to do with Saw.
Yeah.
It's a offshoot of Saw. It's
So
called Spiral.
what does it have to do with Saw?
They mentioned Jigsaw in there. I've only watched like one trailer. I don't remember, but I do want to see
it's not even out yet?
No, I believe it's out.
Oh. You haven't seen it yet? What's wrong with you?
I work.
I thought you loved Saw.
I do. I need to go see it. No, when it came out, I was in Vegas, and then I was busy this weekend.
Sounds like a lot of excuses.
It is a lot of excuses.
Oh, well. Should we call it an episode and go watch Spiral?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching and listening. Go see Don't Play That.
Peace out, butterflies.
Cowabunga.
This is the EVP Podcast.